Rain hammered the Seattle skyline as if someone had turned a faucet wide open in heaven. 3:07 a.m. The ventilator light blinked. Green, yellow, green, each flash slicing the air like a heartbeat I couldn't control. I held my daughter's hand until my knuckles ached, my palm damp with sweat. "Mom's right here," I whispered, not sure whether I was trying to comfort her or myself. The oxygen tube looped beneath her nose, her small chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. One sharp wheeze, one gasp, one moment of hesitation, and suddenly we were in the emergency room. My name is Nora Alvarez. I'm 36, a single mom, and I work in healthcare IT, the kind of job where I make sure the hospital's systems don't crash. Tonight, all I could pray for was that my child wouldn't. Mia is 8, my miracle and my mission, an old soul who builds Lego cities and guards her fox-shaped nightlight like treasure. When the paramedics lifted her into the ambulance, she clutched it even then. I'd called everyone, my parents in Phoenix, my younger brother Leo in Los Angeles, my aunt who lives 2 blocks away. The phone rang, voicemail, texts sent, no one showed. "Maybe they're asleep," I muttered, defending them out of habit. But the clock blinked 3:15, then 3:27, and the room grew larger, colder, emptier. A nurse appeared with a heavy blanket that smelled faintly of starch and lavender. "If you need anything, press this button, honey." That simple kindness cracked something inside me. The hollow spot where no one comes has lived for years. I took a photo of Mia sleeping, her hair plastered to her forehead, her stuffed fox tucked close to her chest, and sent it to the family group chat. "She's stable, but still on oxygen. ICU tonight. Please pray for her." 3 minutes later, a red heart from my mother. 10 minutes later, Leo replied, "Glad she's okay. Big news on my end. Call me when you can." My aunt dropped a flickering candle gif, and that was it. When dawn bled pale through the blinds, the beeping slowed, steady, almost gentle. "Good news," the doctor smiled. "Her lungs are responding well to the medication. If she stays fever-free, she can go home by the weekend." My knees almost gave out. I texted the update. Mom sent a rainbow emoji. Dad said nothing. Leo wrote, "Amazing! I'll fill you in on my big thing soon. It's huge." I floated between 2 worlds. The real one, where my daughter had fought for breath and won, and the family one, where every "I'm proud of you" came with an invisible price tag. I didn't need their money. I needed someone to sit beside me while I showered, someone to hand me a cup of coffee when my fingers trembled too much to pour, someone who cared without adding a memo line. Saturday. The rain eased. As I drove home with Mia sleeping in the back seat, Seattle glowed in that soft, forgiving light it gets after a storm. She hugged her fox tightly. "Mom," she mumbled, "can we go rowing again when I'm better?" I smiled. "When you can take a deep breath without wheezing, we'll row the whole lake." She nodded and fell asleep again. By the time we reached our building, the city had shaken itself awake. I carried her up 3 flights, each step weighted with memories. The late-night deadlines, the emergency clinic visits, the endless, "Can you help me, honey?" calls from home. Every favor, every loan, every emotional rescue, they all sat on my shoulders like old ghosts. Inside, our apartment smelled of lemon and soap. I set Mia on the couch, tucked her under her fox blanket. "Mom, can we watch the Fox movie tonight?" she whispered through her raspy breath. "Of course," I said. "After soup." Then my phone buzzed. Email from insurance, reminder for medication, and then a message from my mother that made my stomach drop. "Sweetheart, so happy Mia's better. Now something exciting. Leo found the perfect wedding venue. Malibu, New Year's Eve. Stunning. Deposit due Monday, $15,000. We're all pitching in, but you're the only one who can send it in time. Family helps family. Love you." I froze. The kettle began to whistle, steam fogging the kitchen window until it blurred the whole city. $15,000. Today. 3 days after an ICU stay. 3 days after "Love you." Then Leo's message appeared, cheerful, oblivious. "Nora!" Ali said, "Yes. We found the venue. They're holding it for us because they love our brand. So cosmic. Deposits $15K, total steal. Mom says you're a financial superhero and can shoot it over today. I'll pay you back after pilot season. Love you. P.S. Mia's good now, right?" The kettle screamed. I turned off the stove, forgot to use an oven mitt, burned my palm. I placed it down gently and just stared. Pilot season. Superhero. Every word felt like a blade wrapped in sugar. A soft knock broke my trance. Mrs. Jenkins, my elderly neighbor, poked her head through the still unlocked door. "Need me to sit with Mia for a bit? I just baked some oatmeal cookies." I almost cried. "Yes, thank you," I whispered. When she left, I opened my laptop. The glow painted my face ghost white. One folder labeled Family stared back, full of Christmas photos, birthdays, and spreadsheets titled Loans to be repaid. I opened the chat window again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Type, delete, type again, delete. It felt like standing at the edge of a roof, terrified of falling, but more terrified of staying. Mia stirred, her small voice drifting from the couch. "Mommy, tomorrow can we blow bubbles? If you're tired, we can do it on the balcony." A child who already knew how not to ask for too much. Something inside me cracked open. I looked at my phone. Mom's bubble. Seen? Leo's "Love You" still glowed blue. Next to me, Mia's nightlight, a fox with tiny felt ears, waited for darkness so it could shine. I took a long breath. My fingers found the bank app instead of messages. There it was, the family emergency account I'd opened years ago when Dad had heart issues. I hadn't checked it in months. The balance had plummeted. Notes, TSA pre-check. Self-tape lighting. Gas to LA. And at the bottom, $600 dress experience, Ali first look. My throat went dry. The emergency fund was paying for wedding photos. A new question rose in my mind like a bubble breaking the surface. If a white gown counts as an emergency, what does breathing count as? Outside, the rain stopped. Sunlight slid through the blinds in fine golden threads. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and cradled the phone between my hands. For the first time in years, I wasn't shaking. On the other side of fear, I realized, isn't always courage. Sometimes, it's clarity. And as I sat there beside my recovering daughter, with soup simmering on the stove and a phone full of unpaid debts and unspoken disappointments, I knew this was the moment everything would change. The next message I sent wouldn't be a transfer. It would be a line in the sand, a full stop at the end of a long, exhausting sentence, and the first capital letter of a brand new story. Sunday morning crept in with a deceptive kind of peace. The rain had washed the streets clean, and sunlight spilled through the kitchen blinds in thin, perfect lines. Mia was finally eating again, slowly, carefully, sitting at the counter in her oversized pajamas with little fox prints. She smiled weakly between spoonfuls of pancake. "I think I'm getting strong again, Mommy," she said. I smiled back, though my chest still felt heavy. "You are, stronger than you know." But inside, my mind was far from calm. I had barely slept. The dress experience transaction kept flashing in my thoughts like a neon sign. They already used my money. Not a request, not a discussion, just entitlement, masked as family need. The phone buzzed again. I reached for it automatically. Another message from my mother. "How's Mia feeling today? Glad she's recovering. Now, about Leo's wedding deposit, we need to finalize it. The boutique is holding the dress until 5 today. Could you send the transfer by noon? You're the only one who can handle this smoothly. Family helps family." I stared at the words until they blurred. Family helps family. It was the same mantra they'd used my entire life. Code for Nora fixes everything. Then another message followed before I could even reply. Leo and Ali found the dress. Vera Wang, limited edition. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can't let it slip away. Once in a lifetime. I looked at Mia, fragile but smiling as she tried to cut her pancake with a plastic fork. My once in a lifetime was sitting right there, breathing, alive because of medical professionals who'd fought for her in the middle of the night, while my family texted emojis. Then came the flood, from Dad. Your mom told you about the dress. It's important to your brother. You make good money, sweetheart. Don't overthink it. From Mom again. We've all done our part. You're the one with savings. Be reasonable. From Leo. Sis, please don't stress. We'll pay you back after the honeymoon. Promise. I set the phone down on the table and took a long breath. Pay you back. Those words had been the family's lullaby for decades, always sung with good intentions, always ending in silence. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up my coffee mug. The bitterness burned my tongue, grounding me in the moment. For years, I had swallowed my anger to keep the peace, convincing myself that keeping the family happy meant keeping myself whole. But sitting there, watching my daughter, who they hadn't even visited after surgery, I realized something had broken inside me. Mom, Mia's small voice snapped me out of the spiral. Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at me? The question sliced clean through me. No, sweetie, I said quickly. Why do you think that? Because they didn't come to the hospital. Mason's grandparents came when he broke his arm. They brought him a big bear. I forced a smile, my throat tight. Grandma and Grandpa love you very much. They've just been busy. Mia nodded, accepting the lie the way children do when they sense the truth is worse. She turned back to her plate. When she finished breakfast, I settled her on the couch with her fox blanket and a movie. Then I returned to the kitchen table. My phone blinked again. This time, it was a call from my father. Morning, Dad, I answered, already bracing myself. Nora, he said, his tone clipped. Your mother tells me you're hesitating about helping with Leo's wedding dress. Hesitating isn't the right word, I said quietly. I'm saying no. He chuckled, the same laugh he used whenever he thought I was being dramatic. Come on, don't make a big thing out of this. It's a happy occasion. You're not poor, are you? Dad, it's not about being poor. Mia just had surgery. I have hospital bills to cover. Time off work I won't get paid for. Excuses, he interrupted. You've always been good with money. You'll make it back. Your brother deserves a nice wedding. It's the least you can do. The least I could do. The phrase hung there like a noose. I closed my eyes and exhaled. Dad, can I ask you something? Did Leo or Mom tell you that money's already been taken from the emergency account? Silence. Then a pause, sharp and defensive. That's family money, Nora. It's not like we stole it. It's not family money, I said, my voice trembling now, not from fear, but fury. I opened that account for real emergencies, health issues, crises, not dresses and photo shoots. He sighed. You're overreacting. You've always been like this. So rigid, so uptight. You're making everyone uncomfortable. Dad, I said softly, my daughter almost stopped breathing 3 days ago. Not one of you came to the hospital. You didn't call. You didn't visit. You didn't even send flowers, but now, 3 days later, you're calling to demand $15,000 for a dress. He scoffed. We're not demanding, we're asking. Family helps family. I've helped plenty, I snapped before I could stop myself. Who helped me when Brian left? When I was juggling 2 jobs and night feedings? When I paid your mortgage refinance fee? Or when I cleared Leo's credit card debt? Twice? I never complained. I never asked for a thing. But this time, Dad, I'm saying no. There was a long silence on the line. Then, if that's how you feel, maybe it's best you take some time away from the family. He hung up. For a full minute, I sat frozen, the quiet around me so heavy it felt alive. Then I opened my laptop. I was done crying. I was done explaining. As a financial consultant, I had spent years advising clients on boundaries. Between business and family, emotion and logic, it was time I took my own advice. I logged into my bank account and clicked on the Joint Emergency Fund. $8,172.47 remained. My jaw tightened as I scrolled through the history again. Dozens of small withdrawals, each like a tiny betrayal I hadn't noticed in real time. Then I did something I'd never done before. I acted. First, I froze the account. Then I moved every remaining dollar, except $1, into a new account under my name only. In the transfer memo, I typed, "For confetti. This is all you'll get." Then I created a new savings plan for Mia, an educational trust that no one could touch except her. Not even me, unless the funds were used for her schooling. The system required dual verification and notarized authorization, ironclad, untouchable. As I set up the last digital signature, I felt something strange rising inside me. Not relief, not anger, something sharper. Power. For years, I had been the family's fixer, the quiet rescuer, the responsible one. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about showing my daughter that love without respect is manipulation dressed as loyalty. I drafted one final message to the family group chat. I've frozen the emergency account. I've secured Mia's education fund. There will be no $15,000 transfer for the dress. Family helps family, but that goes both ways. When I needed help, none of you showed up. So now I'm helping in a different way, by setting boundaries. I hope someday you'll understand. I hit send. The phone vibrated instantly. Calls, texts, notifications lighting up the screen like fireworks. Mom's crying voice on voicemail. Dad's anger. Leo's frantic half-apology turning to accusation. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I looked over at the couch. Mia had fallen asleep, her Fox nightlight glowing faintly beside her face. The soft rise and fall of her chest was the only rhythm that mattered. I closed my laptop, exhaled, and whispered to the empty kitchen. This is the last time I'll ever apologize for protecting us. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, for the first time in years, it was utterly still. And that stillness felt like freedom. By Monday morning, the storm had officially begun. When I dropped Mia off at school, she skipped into her classroom clutching her inhaler, hair tied with a pink ribbon Mrs. Jenkins had given her. She turned back to wave. I smiled and waved too, pretending everything was fine. But as soon as she disappeared through the door, my phone began buzzing like a trapped insect. 6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, 12 unread messages from Leo, 2 voicemails. I hadn't even started my car. At the office, I set my coffee down, unlocked my phone, and pressed play on the first voicemail. Mom's voice trembling and tearful. "Nora Elizabeth, what is the meaning of this $1 transfer? Is this some kind of joke? The boutique needs the deposit by noon or Leo loses the dress. Call me immediately." The second voicemail was sharper, her voice climbing higher. "I don't know what game you're playing, but this is your brother's happiness we're talking about. We raised you better than this. Your father is furious. Fix this mistake right now." I scrolled through the text messages. Leo's tone shifted like a chameleon. At first, "Sis, must be a mix-up, right? You meant to send $15K, not $1? LOL, call me." Then, "Please, Nora, Allie's devastated. Don't do this to me." Then finally, "You've always been jealous. You've never wanted me to have nice things. You're pathetic." I set the phone face down on the desk and took a long sip of coffee, trying to calm the trembling in my hands. My assistant, Lauren, poked her head through the door. Nora, your mother's here. She seems upset. Do you want me to tell her you're in a meeting?" I inhaled slowly, shoulders stiff. "No, it's okay. Send her in, please, and no interruptions for the next 20 minutes, no matter what you hear." Lauren's eyes widened a little, but she nodded and disappeared. The door opened a moment later, and my mother swept in. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes rimmed with red. She didn't sit down. "What have you done?" she demanded, slamming her purse onto the chair. "Your father went to withdraw the deposit, and the teller said the account was frozen. Then we find out you emptied it, left $100. Are you out of your mind? That's family money." I kept my voice steady, professional, the way I spoke to difficult clients. It's not family money, Mom. It's my money. I created that account to help in real emergencies. You've been withdrawing funds without telling me. For months. $4,000, in fact. She waved her hand dismissively, as if waving away the truth. Small things. Gas, groceries, expenses. You make it sound criminal. Mom, I said quietly, none of this was discussed with me. And last week, when my child was in the ICU, you didn't even visit. But now, suddenly, it's an emergency because of a dress? Her eyes flashed. Don't turn this into some moral crusade. You've always made everything about you. Leo's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You could afford this 10 times over. I could, I admitted, but I won't, because this isn't about money anymore. It's about respect. Her lips tightened. Respect? We're your parents. You owe us respect. I stood up slowly. Respect is mutual, Mom, and love isn't a transaction. You can't disappear when I need you and reappear when you want a check. She blinked fast, eyes glistening but voice turning cold. If you don't fix this by noon, consider yourself no longer part of this family. I didn't flinch. I'd expected it. Is that really how you measure family, Mom? By bank transfers? Because if not sending money means I'm not family, then what does it mean that none of you came when Mia was fighting for breath? Were you already not family then? Her face faltered. For 1 second, just one, there was guilt. Then she snatched up her purse. This conversation is over. Your father will deal with you. She turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass pane rattled. A few seconds later, Lauren reappeared, wide-eyed. Everything okay? I exhaled a humorless laugh. Family drama, nothing new. But by lunch, things escalated further. Robert, the branch manager at my bank, called. His voice was calm but tense. Nora, just a heads up, your parents were here this morning. They tried to override the freeze on the emergency account, claimed it was a misunderstanding. My stomach dropped. They what? They also filed a provisional fraud report saying you moved funds illegally. I've already clarified to our compliance team that you're the primary account holder. You're legally in the right, but they were persuasive. They also mentioned contacting your firm, suggesting you were under stress and making irrational decisions. A cold sweat broke across my neck. They're trying to sabotage me. Robert sighed. It happens more often than you'd think when family and money mix. Don't worry, we'll back you up with the records. Thank you, I said, my voice shaking slightly. As soon as I hung up, I went straight to my supervisor, Nancy, a woman who'd mentored me for years. I told her everything, from Mia's hospitalization to the family account. She listened silently, hands folded, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You've been dealing with emotional blackmail for a long time, haven't you?" The truth of that sentence hit me so hard I almost cried. "Take whatever time you need," she continued. "If your parents call the firm, I'll handle it. And Nora?" "Yes?" "Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sane." By the time I left the office, I had 6 new voicemails, all variations of outrage. Dad's tone grew darker with each one. Finally, that evening, his name flashed again on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Dad." "Nora," he said, his voice low, measured. "We need to talk. Family meeting, tonight, 7 o'clock, at our house." "Dad, I can't. Mia's still recovering, and I don't want to leave her alone." "Then bring her," he snapped. "This needs to be settled, now." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to go, but some battles had to be faced head on. "Fine," I said. "I'll come." Before leaving, I called Mrs. Jenkins. The woman was an angel. "Of course I'll watch Mia," she said. "We'll bake cookies and watch that space documentary she loves. Take all the time you need." I drove in silence. My parents' split-level house looked exactly as it had when I was a teenager. Porch light flickering, rose bushes overgrown, curtains half closed. Leo's silver Tesla was already in the driveway. Another car, a sleek black Range Rover, was parked beside it. Ali's, I assumed. When Mom opened the door, she didn't greet me. She just turned and walked toward the living room, where everyone else was waiting. Dad sat in his recliner, the throne of family judgment. Mom perched on the couch beside Leo and Ali, her hand wrapped tightly around a tissue. Everyone looked at me as I entered. "Sit down," Dad said curtly, pointing to a dining chair that had been placed across from them, like I was a defendant on trial. I remained standing. "Before we start," I said, "I want to be clear about why I'm here. I'm not here to fight about a dress. I'm here to talk about years of financial and emotional manipulation that need to stop." Manipulation? Leo jumped up, eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you kidding me? Just because I asked for help with my wedding?" "This isn't about the dress, Leo," I said evenly. "It's about the pattern, about how every time there's a crisis, I'm the first call and the last person anyone shows up for, about how the emergency account was drained without my permission." Ali frowned. "What emergency account?" Before anyone could stop me, I spoke directly to her. "The account I created years ago for my parents, in case of health emergencies. They've been making regular withdrawals. For your wedding, for gas, for random expenses, and last week they used it for your dress fitting." Ali blinked. "Wait, what?" She turned to Leo. "Is that true?" Leo stammered. I didn't know. Mom said." Mom cut him off, her voice rising. "That's not relevant. We're here because Nora's punishing this family over a misunderstanding." "It's very relevant," I said sharply. "Ali deserves to know where the money came from. You've been lying to everyone." Dad slammed his hand on the armrest. "Enough! Nora, you're blowing this out of proportion. We only used what was needed, and if you hadn't frozen the account, we could have handled this privately." "You mean secretly," I corrected. "Like always." Ali was pale now, glancing between Leo and my parents. "You told me she refused to help," she said quietly. "Not that you already took the money." Leo swallowed hard. "I didn't. Mom, you said—" I opened my bag and pulled out a folder. I'd spent the night preparing it. Bank statements, transfers, notes, a spreadsheet listing every time I'd covered someone else's crisis. "Here," I said, handing copies around the room. 53,120. That's how much I've given or loaned this family over the last decade. Mortgage refinancing, Leo's credit card debt, Dad's medical bills, even small emergencies, covered. Do you see your names here?" The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Dad leaned back, lips pressed tight. Mom looked away. Leo's eyes darted down the list, widening with each line. Ali sat frozen, gripping the papers. I continued quietly. "Meanwhile, when Mia was hospitalized, I called each of you. Not for money, for support, for company. You didn't come. You didn't even ask how we were doing. But 3 days later, you wanted $15,000 for a dress. Tell me, how should I interpret that?" No one spoke. Finally, Leo muttered, "You've always wanted to make me look bad." I stared at him. "Leo, this isn't about making you look bad. It's about me finally refusing to be treated like an ATM with feelings. If you want help, earn it through respect, not guilt." Dad's voice rose again. "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said, my voice steady as stone. "The lies and entitlement tore it apart. I'm just done pretending it's still whole." I looked around the room, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "From now on, I'm setting boundaries. No more secret withdrawals. No more guilt trips. No more family helps family when that only means Nora pays for everyone else. If you want a relationship with me and with Mia, it will be built on love and presence, not money." I picked up my purse. "The choice is yours." And then, to everyone's surprise, it was Ali who spoke first. "Nora," she said quietly, "I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't know. And for what it's worth. You're right." Leo looked at her, stunned. "Ali!" But she shook her head. "No, Leo, she's right. A dress isn't worth a child's trust." I nodded once, met her eyes, and turned for the door. As I reached it, Leo called after me, his voice breaking. "Nora, wait." I paused. He looked helpless, small. I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted one thing that felt easy. I didn't realize what it was costing you. "Then learn from it," I said softly, "because easy things built on other people's sacrifices never last." And with that, I walked out into the cold night air. The door closed behind me with a sound that felt like an ending, and somehow a beginning. 2 months passed since that night in my parents' living room, since the shouting, the silence, and the truth finally being spoken aloud. For the first time in years, I woke up to quiet that didn't feel heavy. The house no longer hummed with anxiety or guilt. It was just me, Mia, and the gentle rhythm of a life finally lived on our own terms. The first week after the confrontation was strange. My phone didn't buzz, no texts, no "how's Mia?" No guilt-ridden messages, just silence, a kind of emptiness that was both terrifying and peaceful. Mia recovered fully. The color returned to her cheeks, her laugh filled the apartment again, and she started building a Lego tower so tall it brushed the bottom of her bookshelf. "Mom, look!" she'd shout proudly. "It's the tallest thing I've ever built." I'd smile watching her from the kitchen where the scent of cinnamon pancakes filled the air. "It's perfect," I'd say, "because you built it yourself." And that, I realized, was exactly what I was doing too, building something new from the ground up, piece by piece. In the absence of chaos, clarity rushed in. I started therapy, something I'd postponed for years because I always thought I could handle everything myself. My therapist, Dr. Morgan, specialized in family systems. She listened quietly as I explained the dynamic I'd lived in all my life. When I finished, she leaned forward and said, "What you've experienced isn't love without effort. It's conditional love built on transaction. You were raised to believe being needed equals being loved, but those aren't the same thing." Her words hit like thunder. Being needed had been my identity since I was 16. Being loved without strings attached? That was foreign territory. Each week we talked about boundaries, guilt, and grief, the kind that comes not from losing people, but from realizing you never truly had them in the way you hoped. At first, I thought I'd feel lonely cutting ties with my family, but loneliness never came. In its place was space I could finally fill with real connection. Lauren from work invited Mia and me to a picnic at Green Lake. Another coworker, Jen, offered to help me paint the kitchen. We laughed until midnight, covered in white paint with pizza boxes stacked on the counter. Even Mrs. Jenkins became something of a surrogate grandmother. She and Mia started baking every Sunday morning. Sugar cookies, banana bread, chocolate muffins. Our apartment always smelled like comfort. One evening, as Mia and I were frosting cupcakes for Mrs. Jenkins' birthday, she looked up at me and said, "Mom, do we have to give everything people ask for to be nice?" I froze mid-motion, knife still in my hand. "Why do you ask that?" She shrugged. "A kid at school wanted my favorite pencil. I said no. He said I was selfish, but I didn't want to give it away." I smiled softly. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. Saying no doesn't make you unkind. It just means you know what's special to you." She nodded thoughtfully, then spread blue frosting over her cupcake. "Then I guess you're not selfish either. You just said no to Grandma's dress thing." I blinked, then laughed, a sound full and free. "Exactly, baby, exactly." That night, after she fell asleep, I stood by her door for a long moment, watching her chest rise and fall in the soft glow of her fox-shaped nightlight. For the first time in years, peace didn't feel like something I had to earn. It just existed. 6 weeks after the confrontation, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No email, no text, a real envelope. My name written in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Vanessa's, my sister's, no, in this version, Leo's. Inside, a single sheet. "Nora, you were right about all of it. Allie and I postponed the wedding. We had some long, ugly conversations about priorities and what we want our marriage to be built on. I didn't realize how much I was repeating the same patterns Mom and Dad created. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I'd like to make things right, starting with paying back what was taken from the emergency account. Allie's on board. We're saving every month. It'll take time, but it's coming. And Nora, thank you for waking me up, even if it hurt. Leo. I stared at the letter for a long time. There was no defensiveness, no manipulation, just honesty. For the first time in our lives, my brother had taken responsibility. I folded the letter neatly and tucked it in my drawer, not as proof of apology, but as proof that change was possible. A week later, a card arrived from my parents. Inside was a birthday card for Mia, pink and glittery, with a gift certificate to a toy store. The note read, "We'd love to take her out for ice cream if that's okay with you. Love, Mom and Dad." I showed it to Mia that evening. Her face lit up like sunrise. "Can we go, Mommy, please?" "We'll see," I said gently. "Maybe next weekend." And we did. Just ice cream, nothing more. They met us at a small cafe downtown. My father looked older than I remembered. My mother's smile was tentative, careful. But they didn't ask for anything. They just listened to Mia chatter about school and Legos and her baking adventures with Mrs. Jenkins. When she ran off to look at the window display, my mother looked at me and said quietly, "You've changed, Nora." "I had to," I said. "I suppose," she admitted, eyes softening, "maybe we all do." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something close to peace. By the end of that summer, I had finished the home renovations I'd been postponing for years. I replaced the old carpet with warm oak floors, painted the walls pale blue, and hung fairy lights across Mia's bedroom ceiling. We planned our first real vacation together, a week at the Oregon coast. Just the two of us, no obligations, no emergencies. The day before we left, I transferred another $1,000 into Mia's education trust. Watching the confirmation screen appear gave me the same satisfaction other people probably feel when they hear applause. That night, Mia and I packed her little backpack, one swimsuit, one stuffed fox, and her favorite book. She climbed into bed and said, "Mommy, I'm really glad we have our own family, just us." I kissed her forehead. "Me too, honey, me too." She smiled sleepily, "And you're my best friend, even when you say no." I laughed softly, especially when I say no. Now, as the year draws to a close, December 2025, I look back on the last 12 months and realize that peace didn't come from fixing everything. It came from letting go of what refused to be fixed. My family still calls occasionally. Leo updates me on their smaller, saner wedding plans. Set for June, backyard, string lights, real smiles. My parents visit Mia once a month. The guilt trips are gone, replaced by quiet gratitude. And me? I've learned that love and obligation aren't twins. They're opposites. I've learned that saying no isn't the end of a relationship. Sometimes it's the only way to start an honest one. I've learned that a woman doesn't need to be anyone's savior to be worthy of love. And most of all, I've learned that boundaries don't cage you in. They set you free. On New Year's Eve, as fireworks shimmer over the Seattle skyline, Mia and I sit by the window, wrapped in a blanket. She leans her head against my shoulder, sleepy-eyed but smiling. "Mommy," she whispers, "do you think this year will be happy?" I glance down at her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It already is," I say, because we finally learned how to keep what matters and let go of what doesn't. Outside, the city roars in celebration, colors bursting across the sky. Inside, I hold my daughter close, feeling her heartbeat against mine. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It just stays. And as I whisper goodnight to the little girl who taught me what unconditional love truly means, I realize this isn't the ending of my story. It's the start of the life I should have had all along.